On Tuesday, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Patricia De Lille, and department officials briefed Parliament's Works Committee, the Public Works Committee, on the investigation into the Beitbridge fence. Now, the 40 million rand project has been found to be irregular following findings that the price was inflated by 17 million rand. The Department of Public Works is beset with institutionalised corruption problems. Currently, there are more than 4,000 cases of department personnel being probed, and only 7 employees have actually been sanctioned. Patricia De Lille is the Minister of Public Works. She joins us now to talk about this and other matters as well. Minister, thanks for your time. Good to have you on the programme.
Thank you, Leanne.
Right, let's talk about what's come up. According to the City Press, you admitted that the informational technology tender wasn't advertised, but Magwa was awarded the contract, which was a deviation due to COVID-19. So that was the background. Why was a 37 million rand project get the go-ahead without monitoring the process and the quality of work?
Well, first of all, Leanne, I must just remind the public, like you said, that I've inherited a department with quite a bad reputation. And in the process of trying to clean up and be held accountable for the department, I have put in many measures to try and stop corruption. You know, since I've been appointed, I have introduced consequence management, contract management, brought in due diligence. And overall, the Director General, together with myself and other people in the department, we were all working very hard to root out corruption. In the case of Beitbridge, it was during the COVID-19 and the state of disaster, and about 40 kilometers of our border on east and west side of Zimbabwe is very porous. The National Defence Force calls it hotspots, and we were asked to fix and repair that so that we can stop, illegal people crossing, to protect them and to protect our country. And in the process of that, even though it was an emergency procurement, due process had to be followed. So the first thing when I became concerned, I then contacted the Auditor General on the 20th of April to investigate. I also instructed our internal anti-corruption unit that were assisted by the SIU to also do an investigation. And at the same day, I also stopped all payments going there. So, Leanne, it is now a subject of disciplinary matter. We're taking action against 14 people, including the Director General. And I will continue to work very hard as the public hold me accountable. I will even work harder to make sure that I expose corruption and that we put systems in place that can prevent and detect corruption.
Yeah. Minister, we obviously have to question a lot of this because at the end of the day, you signed the directive. So, your signature is right on the top, but the people that implement it are the ones that are getting into trouble. So, and many saying you must be held accountable.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I want to be held accountable. And it's exactly for the reason that I am accountable that I've launched the investigation, that I've made the findings of the report public, because the people who were responsible for the alleged corruption must be brought to book. And that is why I will continue to be held accountable, answer to the public. And I do also want to say to the public that if any of the members of the public have got any information about corruption in my department, like with the leases or anything, they're free to get my email address and my contact details from your station and send that information for me, because corruption steals from the poor. And we all have got the responsibility to root out corruption. And I don't mind to be held accountable. And I will always take the public in my confidence and share this information with them.
Yeah. When we look at this, the issue, and particularly about the payment up front? Because this is
Yes.
something that is very questionable. I mean, the department's intervention came very late because 21 million rand was already paid up front, as
Yes.
it has been alleged. What stage and how many installments were actually paid in? Because there are allegations that this contractor has been found to be, conducting this kind of work before, which is not above board at all.
Leanne, you're right. The 21 million was paid days after the contractor was awarded the tender. Which was also irregular because by that time they've not delivered or the materials were not even on site. And so that's why on the 25th of April, I stopped any further payments of the projected 40.4 million that the project was supposed to be, to cost us. So we are now waiting for, for the final accounts. We have not paid a cent more. We have been overcharged by at least between 14 and 17 million. And once the accounts have been audited, because this project is now also a subject of the SIU proclamation that was issued by the President on the 23rd of July, we will certainly take it further. We will go for civil litigation through the SIU tribunal. We will look at criminal charges against people, and also we have started a process whereby we want to restrict the company from doing further business with any government department, and that recommendation will then go to the National Treasury that will make the final decision. But here's a good opportunity for government to show that we will not tolerate corruption by anyone, and that certainly if you are corrupt, you'll be caught out.
Yeah, well, we still wait for that. And I mean, you yourself are somebody that is always, you've always stood on the line of being, upfront, anti-corruption, trying to fight this. And the worst part about it is that you are now embroiled in something like this. Does this not affect you personally? Because to now have to go through this as being the minister of the department that is in charge of something as important as this fence that has cost a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, you're now part of the system.
Well, Isili, and I can't agree with you more. At a personal level, for me, it's very, very difficult. My reputation speaks for itself. When I was the mayor of the city of Cape Town, I received 4 consecutive clean audits. So I'm working very hard to get the department to also receive clean audits, because this is what I have inherited. Clean audits is not just that you must make sure that every cent of the money is spent where it's supposed to be spent, but also it's also a moral obligation, because you are responsible to watch over taxpayers' money. So yes, it's difficult for me, but I've got a responsibility. I must be held accountable in terms of the Constitution. And because of that, because I want to be held accountable, I will continue to expose corruption wherever it rears its head in this department. I mean, this Beitbridge is not the only one. What I also inherited was the funeral scam, where over 78 million rand of government was squandered on funerals. And what I did was to say, let's review the policy for state and official funerals. And that process has also started now. And we have made recommendations that a cap must be put on the amount of money that we spend on funerals. We are responsible to provide the infrastructure for the funerals. Because for me, what is the painful part, Leanne, is that, all our legends, all our heroes, which receive state funerals and official funerals, we're bringing their names into disrepute. And we can't allow this to go on. The recent one is the late Tata Andrew Malangeni. So we must clean up this department. And I also need the help of the public to help me to clean up this department so that we don't bring our own legends into disrepute.
Yeah, certainly. But you talk about the costs. Now, we've just brought up two instances. Andrew Mlangani's funeral, Tata Andrew Mlangeni. We're talking about the Beitbridge and, the amount that has been wasted, this expenditure that was never, ever meant to go. Unfortunately, Minister, this is under your watch, no one else's watch. I know you're blaming it on the past, but you're sitting in this chair right now. You're the one that it has happened under her guidance.
Yes. Oh, most definitely. I will never deny that. I must be held accountable, and I'm acting. My responsibility is to act against the corrupt. It's not about me. I've not been found to have benefited from any of the corruption. Some of the corruption that I'm exposing now and dealing with happened in 2018. Besides the funerals, I'm also sitting with the department where 13 of the senior managers have been appointed irregularly. So it's a process, following due process, to clean up the department that will continue to happen, Leanne. My responsibility is to act, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm calling on the help of the public. If you have any information, please send it to me. But to clean up this department, it's a must. The members of parliament are also holding me to account, and I'm reporting to parliament regularly on progress that we are making to clean up the department.
So I want to just dwell on this once again, the whole irregular contracts for state funerals at a cost of, as you mentioned, 76 million rand for just 3 funerals. Now, last month you suspended Director General Sam Vukela, correct? How did it get as far as a third funeral without being queried? I mean, at what stage was this flagged? Shouldn't it have stopped at the first funeral?
According to the process, Leanne, on the 17th of March 2020, I received a minute from President Cyril Ramaphosa mandating me and delegating me to take action against the Director General. I immediately started the process by getting legal advice, and he has subsequently been suspended, put on precautionary suspension subject to the outcome of the disciplinary hearing. And as far as the other officials in the department are concerned, that is to discipline them. That's the responsibility of the Director General or the Acting Director General. So we also have to follow due process during all of this, Leanne. The funerals happened in 2018. The wrong appointments happened in 2018. But I'm acting on that because I am now the head of this department. And I will continue to act against any wrongdoing in the department.
Minister, I want to go back just a little bit in terms of the actual policy that is in place right now. What is wrong with this current policy? And why is it so open to corruption and the misappropriation of funds? From
what I've noticed, Leanne, is that where the big spend of the money is that people rent marquees, for instance, and will rent a marquee for a full week. We will rent chairs, we will rent flowers, we'll rent plants, we rent the cloth that you put over the chairs. And as an interim measure, while we are reviewing the policy, I've said that we need to procure those kind of infrastructure so that we can use and reuse it all the time. So then also you then have to also pay. A part of the price will also be a consultant, and so the cost just adds up and up and up. For instance, we need to prepare the grave site, and normally that's the responsibility of the funeral parlor. So the review of the policy are looking at all of those matters. We are looking at putting on a cap We are looking and proposing that maybe we should give a donation to the family and they do the procurement. So once the policy has been reviewed and approved by Cabinet, we will certainly see things being done differently.
Yeah. When we talk about a cap, what amount are we looking at? I mean, it would be interesting to hear what amount would be a reasonable amount for a state funeral.
In terms of our estimation of the infrastructure of which we are responsible, we are looking at an amount of 200,000, 250,000, depending on whether it's if it's a provincial funeral, then of course the province will also contribute. But all the estimates of what we estimate, that is the proposed amount that we are putting forward. At today's rate, considering all other cost additions to the family, because the idea really here is to assist the family, to give recognition to the status of that person. And in this case, it's our heroes like Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Tata Andrew Malangeni, those people that have fought and have given their life for the freedom of this country. The least that we can do is to make sure that we arrange a good send-off for our heroes.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm wondering if they would agree. They obviously are not with us anymore, but I mean, to be spending, and I know I'll wrap this here because there is other issues I want to talk to you. 50 million rand during a national pandemic and a crisis that is crippling South Africa. People don't have food on their tables and are begging for 350 rand that they still have not even received from government. And yet we can go as far as spending 50 million rand on 3 funerals. It's heartbreaking, to say the least.
The chairperson of SCOPA in Parliament has requested all the invoices linked to the late Tata Andrew Malangeni, and we have submitted all of those invoices to the chairperson. It seems from what we have submitted that the cost was just over 150,000. But it's all still subject to verification, and that's why, Leanne, I support a zero-based budgeting that's coming, because then we will be able to budget in a manner where we put our money to the priorities of the country, like dealing with inequality, poverty, landlessness, homelessness. That is why zero-based budgeting will help us to reprioritize our budget away from unnecessary, not in the case of funerals, it's necessary for funerals. We must respect our heroes and legends that have passed on. But there is certainly a need to re-look at what we budget for and the amounts that we budget for.
All right. Minister, onto another issue now. Early this month, the Sunday Times claimed that it had seen a letter where you asked Vukela in 2019 to consider a company called Oryx. Did you give such a directive, which was interpreted as meddling?
Leanne, I was just in the department for a couple of months, and I first wrote to the Director General, and I said, I need a person to be appointed to assist me with a minefield of legal legislation within the department. He followed due process and appointed a legal advisor on the basis of 3 months. I also looked at the bad image and the reputation, and the reputation of the department, and I asked him, my office did some research, and I said, please, I also want to scope and see what, with the 30 million rand communication budget, what is going on there. The Director General followed due process. He put out a tender. The tender was non-responsive, and that's where I left it. So he did follow due process in terms of that request of mine.
All right, I'm going through a quick range of issues because there is so much. I mean, when you came on board last year, there was hope that you would decisively deal with institutionalized corruption within your department. But as it stands right now, more than 4,000 staff members have been probed, but only 7 employees have actually been disciplined, and those range from written warnings to suspensions, and that's it.
Leanne, once I have detected any wrongdoing or corruption, and due process need to be followed through the disciplinary procedures. You must remember the people who are alleged to be involved, they also have rights, and then the process is out of my hands. It goes into the Labour Relations Department to follow the Labour Relations Act. People have got the right to have union representation. I do agree with you. The processes are painfully slow. And sometimes the processes are also deliberately being delayed by people raising procedural issues and so on. So there is a need that, they say justice delayed is justice denied, that we have to re-look at the procedures of how we hold people to account. But I also inherited in this department, because since 2010, there's been a number of proclamations for the SIU to investigate the department. It was an open proclamation because I can then just add things to the proclamation. So as you can see, it is an institutionalized culture of corruption that has taken place here. And the crooks are always one step ahead of us. And therefore, I must work twice as hard to bring those people to book. And I'm determined to do that, Leanne. I know that a department can receive a clean audit. And to get to a clean audit, I'm working closely with the Auditor General and advice of the Auditor General. The Auditor General's hand is also being strengthened now in terms of the Audit Amendment Act, where people can be held personally liable. So in terms of the legislative framework, we have got all of the laws in place, the Prevention of Organized Crime, you've got the Audit Amendment Act, but it's the implementation of that is not in my hands, whereby now we need to review even those processes to speed it up. Because yes, some people were found guilty. And then the other thing is that people resign before you can discipline them. And then again, even that needs to be looked at, because they can still be held civilly liable or criminally liable for any wrongdoing.
All right, Minister, there is so much more I need to speak to you about, but we've unfortunately run out of time at this point. We have to wrap this.
Thank you for the opportunity, Leanne.
Thank you for your time. Minister, please, we will invite you back.
Thank you very much.
Lots more to discuss. Public Works Minister Patricia De Lille talking to us about a range of issues, but particularly with regard to that fence, that Beitbridge border fence, as well as the funeral costs that are just far too expensive. Quick break. We'll see you after this.